Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cult Classics AZ and Cult Following's panel on Slasher Films, Why We Cheer for the Bad Guy. Here live at Phoenix Comicon 2016. I'm one of your usual three hosts here, Victor Moreno, along with Adam Rutkowski.
Meow.
And Kirby Nelson, along with special guest host Ruby Tate.
Hey guys.
Try this.
What up?
All right, if you guys don't know, we do a horror genre movie podcast you can find on iTunes. Just look for Cult Following. We're also online at cultfollowing.co. That's C-O without the M. Almost .com, but not quite. All right, so who here loves slasher movies? Who's your favorite slasher hero? Jason, Freddy, give us. We got a lot of contention among the audience, you guys. There's a lot of favorite slasher heroes. Quiet. Shh. So we're going to talk about some of our favorite slasher heroes and why we actually really love slasher movies and hate those annoying teenagers who tend to survive. Am I right?
Right.
What do you guys think? Kirby? Adam?
I'm not a huge fan of slasher movies.
Oh, we're going to have to convert Adam. Yet he loves Pinhead. Who do here thinks Hellraiser's a slasher movie?
Hello. Right?
Yeah, we've got some love for that argument.
Literal, because the hooks fly out of walls and slash people, but also figurative in people.
And he's trying to hunt down Kirsty, right? But I don't know, Kirby, why don't you tell us a little bit of slasher movies and where they came from? Because we know Kirby's our designated slasher expert, along with loving movies where kids die.
That's very true. I mean, you can ask anyone. I mean, slasher history. I first and foremost would say, if you're interested in the topic academically or really just want to learn more, there's an excellent documentary film called Going to Pieces, The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film. There's also, it's I think harder to find now, it might be available digitally, is the companion book for that, Going to Pieces as well. I think the author is Adam Rockwell. Amazing book, but they do, kind of traces the history. I mean, you can say Grand Guignol, you can say, early films that really kind of tested the boundaries both in the Universal era, even into Hammer horror, some of the stuff that was in the 50s. But for most people that I've ever talked to, especially with slasher tropes like the point of view, the stalking, the maniacal kind of killer, but with a backstory, I think most people acknowledge is the British film Peeping Tom, and that's what I would also say. The other one is an Italian horror film, most notably known as Bay of Blood. And really it established the basic outline, and I mean, most here know that, I mean, you're all fans, that it's a pretty much paint-by-numbers system, especially in the 80s. But in the original time, they were trying to do a little bit more oriented towards, I don't know, maybe kind of blurring the line into like a mystery, Italian giallo films.
Yeah, it's sort of a hybrid, because if you really look at horror history, slashers are the inverse of what Universal monsters are. Like if you look at James Whale's Frankenstein, Frankenstein is actually the final girl. Everyone's trying to hunt down Frankenstein, versus once you start getting into like movies like, Black Christmas and the early slashers, you realize it's the inverse, where the monster itself is the one that's hunting down all the, humans, or as I like to call them, fodder.
Yeah, and the Universal films, I mean, all the classics generally are considered sympathetic characters, whereas they're really, for most slashers, was not sympathetic, but it did create the, this is who we cheer for. I mean, I don't think a lot of studio executives and audience were not prepared for audience test screens where people were cheering for the victims to be killed. I mean, full on, like people, especially in the grindhouses in the on 42nd Street, which is really where a lot of cult exploitation film came from, and really slashers had their rise, was in that time period in New York. They weren't ready for that kind of like a response, but then when they realized, of course, you could do this. I mean, a big part of the proliferation of slasher films was because of how cheaply they could be made, and that was super important for the growth of them and of horror in general.
Yeah, especially when you look at like the early proto slashers, like The Town That Dreaded Sundown or Black Christmas. They're not really expensive movies. In fact, if you look even at Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, that's for the longest time that was like the highest grossing independent horror film in history, just because it was a stunt man in a mask and a handful of girls in a couple of houses they rented. You really think about it, it's like, wow, that seems so basic. Yet it tells you how much score and atmosphere contribute.
Yeah. It's famously known that when Halloween was originally screened, it was screened without music. And most of the studio and the backers were like, what is this? This isn't scary. This isn't anything. And then when Carpenter put in his score, everything changed. And that was an important hallmark of Italian and a lot of European horror that did get, not that American horror didn't have that history, but in slashers, it became an extremely important hallmark because that was the cue. The cue for the killer, the cue for the victim, whatever you knew was going to happen. I mean, Harry Manfredini's score for Friday the 13th, any famous ones, everyone knows the theme. Everyone knows the stinger. Yeah. That was the Atari version of that, I'm pretty sure. But
well, it's a well-known fact. I had a chip tune implanted in my jaw just so I could do that for this panel. But, when you speak about most of these like the slasher franchises, it's because at some point they do develop into a formula with very delineated steps. There's usually our killer / hero who had some kind of tragedy befall him in their youth that is not really ever explained unless we get to around part 4 or 5. And there's a handful of teenagers who are somehow tied into his flimsy backstory, one of whom is more likely than not a virginal girl. You don't have sex in these movies, and if you do, you might as well die. Drugs are apparently the same thing in the same ballpark.
Jason Voorhees is straight edge, just letting you know.
Exactly. And Freddy is against all kinds of uppers. These are heroes. No. And for the most part, you're going to pick through all the fodder except for the final girl, and at that point, there'll be some magical elixir that will enable our hero to return in a sequel, a magical death, which is usually stupid, but you have to do it to keep the franchise going. And these are magical steps of building a slasher movie. So I think that right now we should probably ask Adam, since we've delineated the basics, what don't you like about slashers in general? Is it just that they're predictable, or just the threadbare, protagonist?
They just never appealed to me in some way.
Just not.
I don't know. Well, when I would go to the video store, that's not really the first thing that I would seek out. Maybe I wanted something maybe that wasn't so straightforward and predictable. I mean, when you pick up like Driller Killer, you know what it's going to be. Maybe I wanted a little more kind of fantastical nature to my killings, as opposed to saying, it's going to be, a final girl kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point there. And then let's talk to
just because I came from my mom read a lot of Stephen King when I was little, so that's kind of what was in our library. I said, well, she's reading Stephen King, I'm going to read Clive Barker. So I was more of kind of a Clive Barker fan, and he always played around with more fantasy elements, whereas I don't think slasher really has much fantasy to that.
We can talk about that in a minute. And let's talk to our other guest host, Ruby. What's your stance on slashers? Yay, nay?
yay. Some of them are formulaic, but I really enjoy Freddy. He was my favorite. I used to have nightmares, and then somehow we became friends at some point. I don't know where the transition happened, but I watched him over and over again, to scary to loving. So but I hear the fantastical element too. So, because I read a lot of Stephen King as a kid, and he always brought a lot of magic, I thought. So,
well, and out of any of them, I think I enjoyed the Nightmare on Elm Street series more than most. Up until maybe the fourth one is kind of when I started to.
I think we're all gonna go, yeah.
But
Don't even talk
Dream
about part
Warriors
5.
is always my favorite. I mean, the first one stands alone. First ones of any series always stands alone and has the most strength to it, and is always beloved. But discounting that, Dream Warriors is my favorite.
That one was so good. Yeah. That one was so
I think Dream Warriors holds a special place in most of our hearts because it's probably the only slasher movie where you actually care about the people that the slasher killer is actually trying to destroy. To this day, I remember being in like grade school, and there's the kid who plays D&D, and he's paralyzed. But in the dream world, he can do actual magic, and he thinks he beat Freddy, and then like Freddy just guts him. It's like, sorry, kid, I don't believe in fairy tales. I was like, no. Your stance on Freddy, Kirby?
I'm a fan. It's one of those things with, I think it kind of like, as Ruben is kind of saying, it's the formulaic thing, and even Adam touched on a little bit, is not only the predictability, but a big part of what slashers especially tried to do in the late 70s and early 80s, which was that, Carpenter always said the idea for Halloween came from the fact that he felt it touched into the mainstream of not just, obviously of America, but even the world, that most people had been a babysitter or had a babysitter. A lot of these kinds of things. People went to camp, summer camp. That was a common rite of passage. So people, almost all were shared experiences that people had, so anyone could come with it. But that's a big part of not only slashers' main impediment, but also of a lot of horror films, is that you have characters you just do not care about, which is why you want to see them dead. So it's a plus, but then it's also like, then once the thrill is gone, then it's not nearly there. That's why there wasn't a lot of replay value, and that's why I think a lot of the slasher films that became bigger were the ones that had, that's when you really started seeing creativity. That was always there in a lot of the Giallo films and stuff like that. That's is a huge integral part. But I think that a lot of films, people were like, well, this is what I think is going to happen. This is how I think they're going to die. And then to be able to change that was a big part of why. And Freddy was one of the biggest ones, because you can do anything in a dream.
Yeah, I think one of the things along with that makes the idea of the slasher actually being the hero of the movie is the fact that most of the the final girls or the fodder in these movies tend to be inherently unlikable people. For the most part, you have the camp counselors in Friday the 13th, but once you find out the backstory, it's like, these are the people who weren't taking care of Jason, so he wants revenge. Or when you look at Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, sorry, spoiler on that one, in case you're 36 years too late.
Oh. Or the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, where you find out, oh yeah, by the way, these kids, their parents lynch mobbed Freddy to death because he was found innocent in trial for a crime which he may or may not have committed.
Has anyone seen Freddy's Nightmares, the original pilot episode with Tobe Hooper directing the backstory? If you haven't, it's free on YouTube. They've never done an actual release except in the UK, but check it out. Tobe Hooper directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Light Force and tons of other movies. He does a really good job. It's actually really serious. The rest of Freddy's Nightmare series is more fun, low budget, very campy, but the original pilot episode, if you ever want to see a great backstory on that, it's one to check out.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things too, like the most endearing sort of slashers and slasher heroes, as I'm calling them, or we're calling them rather, tend to live on in various media. you know, especially Freddy, who's well known for his puns. I mean, I couldn't like watch TV in the 1980s without getting away from Freddy. And this was like an R-rated, you know, serial murderer. And then I go to Toys R Us and get a pull string doll of him, or he'd be trying to sell me Coca-Cola. You know.
Well, I think it was in Never Sleep Again, the documentary, which is absolutely incredible history on Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like 4 hours long. I think you can watch it on Netflix. I have the DVD of it where it's 8 hours long because the 4 hours they cut out. Yeah. But David J. Scow is like one of the creators of splatterpunk writing, which is a horror subgenre in the 80s. He always said that he thought the creepiest thing he ever saw was kids wearing Freddy pajamas, and he's like, this is a child molester. Just
allegedly.
Just saying.
Allegedly.
Yeah, sorry. Don't want to convict him here or anything.
If the glove doesn't fit, you must quit. Visual pun for podcast listeners, I just held up a Freddy glove. You can laugh now. But for the most part, even though we loved these movies growing up, and once they got to multiple parts, down the line of the franchise, they all inevitably end up in terrible condition, whether it's, a magical cult that programmed Michael Myers to kill, or, Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare, or once you get to Jason Goes to Hell, when Jason is no longer a zombie, but a worm that random people eat. Yeah, watch that movie and then shake your head.
You shake your head on the man-on-man erotic shaving scene. Yes. That is definitely... Yes. I guess a lot of people haven't seen Jason Goes to Hell, but yeah, that is the best man-on-man erotic shaving scene. I've seen a few. Yeah. Just saying. Yeah. Just throwing it out there.
And then eventually we get to the 1990s, where we all get metatextual in 1996 with Scream, the movie that explains why slasher movies are terrible and predictable, while also at the same time being a terrible and predictable slasher. How is that possible? It's like Inception, but horror.
Nobody gives credit to Wishmaster.
It is a slasher by Wes Craven. Yeah. It was Wishmaster, an audience member just mentioned, starring Andrew Divoff, a man who must have 6 testicles to have a voice that deep, is about an evil djinn who basically, when people make wishes, he kind of twists them. And the most famous part is where he tells a lawyer to fuck himself, and and basically his anus dislocates itself to where his penis is. R-rated warning for his podcast listeners. Sorry.
Yeah, but that was also kind of the era too. I mean, I think we were going to jump into the 90s, but I mean, you pretty much. I mean, I think that was the logical, end of the road for it was that, I mean, that's Leprechaun.
In the Hood?
Yeah, In the Hood, Back to the Hood, In Space. He was the first one to go in space.
Well, just remember, Leprechaun in the Hood is one of the few sequels to actually get sequels, so it's like meta sequels.
That's true.
It's like, no, we want to keep the Leprechaun movies going, but I like this Hood thing. Let's keep them both going at the same time. I just know that a few months ago, I was going through my video on demand, and I saw a remake of Leprechaun starring Hornswoggle from World Wrestling Entertainment. So just find a popular midget. That's the way to keep that slasher series going.
That's very, very true.
But the original place where I was going with that is, all these series eventually get to their point where they just kind of start rehashing, become an elaborate mythology that you can't break away from, so you either have to reboot or become a TV show, which is where Scream is gone. I sense not a lot of love for this Scream MTV TV show.
Scream in general.
Right? I like the original Ghostface mask, but let's go down the line, starting with you, Kirby, and tell us what some of your favorite slasher films are and why. Defend yourself.
For me, it's really, I mean, a pretty long list. A lot of the ones that I enjoy most are the ones that are probably a little less well known. And it's, I mean, obviously I love all the classics. I mean, they're all generally good, obviously without selected entries in the franchise. But for me, it's really certain ones I really just love the, it's like when you say like cheering for the killer, some of it for me is just the look or just the attitude, the presence, the atmosphere. Even if the film isn't the best or the script isn't, like I would say definitely a couple of my favorites include Madman from 1982. It's just an excellent slasher.
Just came out on Blu-ray, didn't it?
Yeah, it just came on Blu-ray. Vinegar Syndrome just re-released it. Excellent, has a great documentary. Definitely well worth checking out. I'm a huge fan of The Prowler, which was another great one. A lot of people, I would say that and Maniac are Savini's best non-big budget work. Another, of course, great one for him is The Burning. Cropsey is one of my all-time favorites. And I'll throw it out there, I mean, for the 80s, I'd close it up. Maniac Cop is probably my other favorite, especially the second film. It's just a great, fun series, but the second one is also one of my favorite movies to watch at Christmas.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Maniac Cop is about for people who might not be familiar with it?
Maniac Cop.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. This is Adam at the video store, as he was mentioning earlier. Oh, sounds like it's about a maniac cop. Sounds good. It's not, like I said, they're all shallow. I mean, it's a shallow plot and stuff. The thing with Maniac Cop, I mean, it's just an officer who is sentenced to prison, ends up being, attacked and disfigured by inmates in the prison, and comes back to, haunt law enforcement that put him there. And, it's very simple. The first film does have Bruce Campbell, Tom Atkins is in it, some of the great genre stars. It's just, the second one is just, what's the word? Clusterfuck. That's it. It's just got so much going on in it, like the whole story, and then with the Christmas backdrop and the way the body count in that one is just really interesting. It has like another killer in it that he ends up kind of mentoring and then going against. I mean, it's like a big brother thing. It's just bizarre, but I truly love that. In the 90s, I mean, I think we were going to touch on that. I mean, I do think the 90s with the slasher revival did have some good ones. I recently rewatched a few that I hadn't probably seen in 10, 15 years. And I got to say, like, Urban Legend still really holds up. I really thought it was going to be terrible, but it was still enjoyable. I don't know. There's a few others out there. It's real hard.
Hard to think. Like, I mean, there's Urban Legends, but there's a lot of 90s slashers that, like, I mean, like, would you consider Final Destination a slasher movie? Since that's pretty much the universe trying to kill people. But
Yeah,
Valentine,
it's a tough one.
do you guys remember Valentine?
Valentine's great too. That's another one that's just one of those ones. I mean, but people, I mean, especially a lot of the genre fans that don't like 90s or aughts, horror films or slashers especially, it's kind of like, the 80s weren't that great. Like, I'm sorry, I grew up in it, and it's not that. They're enjoyable, but I mean, it's the same formula. Oh, and that's one I'm sorry, I should have kicked that off with. Sleepaway Camp is actually probably my #1 underrated slasher. Beautiful 2K restoration by Scream Factory recently. Pick up the Blu-ray.
You can flip it over and it has the good cover with the girl with the Jason mask and the Freddy's claw in her backpack.
Yeah, that's on the second one. On the first one, it's the great Letter Home to Camp with the knife through the shoe, which I always loved as a kid. Looking at VHS and the video store just blew me away. But slim pickings, Adam? You wanna?
It is pretty slim.
All right, let's hear it.
I want to hear what Adam likes.
I do.
Well, like I said, I like the Nightmare series. So, but really, it's sticking to that. What would you say, like the killer that goes after the not so innocent teens? Mm-hmm. That's kind of like sticking to the
Formula.
construct, the formula,
Yes,
right?
the trope.
Shoot. Well, let's go with me on something that's completely out, because really, honestly, I I've never seen Halloween all the way through. I could never get through it. I know people can hate me. It's very strange. I've watched the Freddy movies, like I said, but when I was trying to research this, and I know I'm kind of fumbling on my words, there's the slasher movies and then there's like the serial killer movies. And you can't really kind of mix those together. Or you can't really say like a serial...
You can a bit, like Shocker, I think, it kind of works in both.
But see, he's not necessarily punishing, the young for having sex or doing drugs.
No, but
is there just a fine line to that? I know that he's getting revenge or he's getting retribution.
It is Wes Craven's attempt to kind of make a Freddy-ish character, but like bad, like pun-happy Freddy, because that movie's full of bad puns.
Even like Freddy though too. He's not necessarily. He's going after the children of the parents that did him wrong.
Yeah.
More so. So I mean, that is like a revenge thing. I mean.
Yeah, in a way, it's a revenge thing, but he's picking off a group. So there's a selected group he's trying to.
Because what would you think of something like I spit on your grave?
That would be more like grindhouse exploitation.
Is that where you're going? Just straight into like revenge.
Yeah, but she's not like a monster, like a traditional. But it's more like that's more like revenge horror.
So 2 movies I was thinking of, just thinking outside the box: Jaws and Alien.
I would say Jaws is a slasher movie.
Alien is a slasher.
Yeah, Alien too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jaws because he's specifically killing a group of people at one beach. Yeah. And as it progresses, he's specifically trying to kill the family of Roy Scheider.
Yeah. Because he knows.
He knows.
And then once you get to Jaws 3D.
Yeah.
And then Jaws 20.
Yeah, or Jaws, when you get to Jaws 4, The Revenge, and it's the widow.
Right.
And Christopher Guest. And then the best is when she's like trying to kill the shark, and then she's having flashbacks of Roy Scheider from the first movie because they couldn't afford to have him back for an actual flashback. Low budget filmmaking forever.
I just want to say, because it just jogged in my head, the best flashback in any slasher, any horror film ever. Has anyone ever seen The Hills Have Eyes 2? The original, not the remake.
I'm not going to spoil it.
The fucking dog has a flashback.
Yes.
That's all it needs to be said. Continue.
No, that's all I was bringing up. Just think a little different.
Scooby snacks to jog its memory.
So that's your wrap up.
I guess, kind of, sort of.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not really, like I said, I never really picked out kind of the slasher stuff when I'd pick up horror going out. I mean, it was,
Also, in the revenge, the flashback, she was also thinking about her youngest son being killed as well.
It's a good.
That's also in the flashback.
That's true.
And then the son had a flashback.
I can't remember anything. No.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with one I'm kind of surprised hasn't made it up yet, but I guess once I say it, everyone will be like, "Oh, Child's Play." Yeah. Yes, a movie where a serial killer is hunted down by the police, so he uses the only practical knowledge he has, voodoo, to transfer himself into the body of an inanimate doll. Then, he tries to get into the body of that of the owner of that doll, a child, and then the subsequent movies are all about him trying to get revenge of that child for not being able to possess it. Even though in Child's Play 2 and 3, he has adequate opportunities to get into other bodies.
Yeah. Well, he does try to get into the third one.
Yeah.
He can't because he was the first person he told.
Yeah.
So he can't. He can't. It has to be him.
Yeah, follow the fucking rules.
No. In Child's Play 3, he totally tries to get into that little soldier. Let's play hide the soul. Oh yeah, and then it happens. You're right. But that gets bent and twisted later on, especially in Bride of Chucky. So let's not forget Bride of Chucky. Yeah.
The Chucky creator, Don Mancini, he said in numerous interviews that after Child's Play 3, he really did not know what to do. He felt that it had run its course as being straight ahead, horror. And so he just decided in the fourth film that he's like, nah, we're just gonna do it and completely do something new. And I was there on opening day for Bride of Chucky. I was one of 2 people there for like the 4 p.m. showing. I think the only other movie I've seen that was I saw Jason X on opening day in a 400 scene, like kind of like the Cine Capri, and I was the only person there. So
I can beat that. I can beat that. When I was the only person in a 350-seat auditorium to see D. Snyder's Strangeland.
That's true.
I got you beat. My dad and I, opening noon Friday of Howard the Duck. Nobody else in the theater. My dad didn't know what the hell was going on.
A movie which would have been much better served if Howard had been a serial killer killing humans.
Duck tits.
Howard coming back.
Yeah, voiced by Seth Green. Let's think. What other slasher
Speaking
series?
of which, Ed Gale, who is Howard the Duck, he was one of the Chuckies in the original Child's Play film. There were scenes where they could not get the doll to work, so Ed Gale actually was Chucky in a full prosthetic suit. And then they made the room bigger to make him look even smaller. It's on his special features.
That's
great.
amazing to me. Like, what would a full prosthetic Chucky suit be like? Break out the overalls. Do we have the wig?
Oh no.
Fuck, man.
I just had it. I had to go there. I think the audience agrees with me. I had to go there.
I think I was going more for the couple hours in the makeup, but you want to go T1000, that's fine too. Whatever makes you happy.
No. I don't want to, shut Kirby down. Oh yeah. No, that's it. Like, you keep Chucky inside the R2D2. Like, he just pops out, and that's why C-3PO has a red arm. Come on, Artist Alley, make that print happen.
And all the while, I always, when you were talking about Leprechaun, I was just thinking Warwick Davis is like, we could still do Willow too. We can make it happen. Come on, man, please. Let's not do part 7.
I don't know. It just reminded me too, like, one of the movies I had always wanted to see and how much it disappointed me, Freddy versus Jason. But would Chucky versus Leprechaun be any better?
Redemption.
Who really won, Freddy or Jason?
See, that's one of the bigger problems in that movie. There's 2 endings, and then they try to give you Jason won because we shortchanged him the moat, but then he's carrying Freddy's head, which is still alive.
But Jason won that.
How much can he do with a head?
Yeah. Well, you never know. Freddy, maybe Jason just wanted a little head. Oh! Hey-oh!
You just want to get a little head in the afterwards.
Sorry, we're getting a little unruly, guys. So, no, but realistically, Freddy vs. Jason is one of those movies I always thought would be really awesome, and then, you see it and it just seems like it's so paint by numbers on so many levels. Just to, it's like when I watched Avatar and the mineral they're trying to find is unobtainium. The sleeping pill the kids take in that movie has just the dumbest name in that same vein. It's something like, oh yeah. Sorry. I'm getting off on a tangent, folks. This is called a tangent.
If you listened to our last podcast, we went off on James Cameron for 15 minutes. There's some residual hatred.
Yeah.
My new best friend.
Avatar's pro-green.
Yeah, it's also pro-money, so it ties in. But yeah, I'll say Child's Play is one of those I really like, and I'll throw in Nightmares, also one of my favorites, just because Freddy. And now we'll go to Ruby, who I don't want to shortchange because her opinions are really awesome on this topic.
But I'm not quite as articulate in front of an audience. So, anyways, so we haven't hit Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah!
Right? Number one is
That's
my
a documentary.
favorite. Yes. I know it's the story of your family. I know. Loud and proud. Because when that girl screams, you like feel it. I still remember the first time I watched that movie, and it was just like deep in my soul. I was afraid for her. I thought it was awesome. And then, but then you watch it more times, of course, and then you turn to enjoy the bad guys, you know. Silent Night, Deadly Night. Anybody? Right? Because nothing's more fun to a kid than Scary Santa. So, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Especially when he's played by Bill Goldman.
It was so good. And then of the recent ones, I actually really enjoyed Cabin in the Woods. I thought that one is meta. I know it was meta. I just thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed the twists and the turns that they brought to it, and the little quippiness, and Sigourney Weaver. What? You know, come on. So I really enjoyed that. So and then the guys hit already on my other one. So yeah. So it's good. I'm happy.
Yeah, so at this point, we are going to open up to some questions. We have seen some arms up there in the audience, and for those who have been patient and sitting with us, we do have giveaways at the end, so don't leave.
So our giveaways include 2 tickets to Aliens. So we also have a cool Frankenstein tote bag, which will be awesome for carrying your stuff around con. We have a Blade Runner t-shirt, and which I know isn't strictly horror, but we also have a cool Phantasm Sons of Anarchy mashup shirt. So we'll do that at the end. So.
And a steak date with Kirby. Oh, no way. No steak.
It's like the winner's
Vegan steak.
Sure.
All right, so let's take some questions. And since we are recording, you'll have to be very loud. So let's start with,
I think they're going to have a
all
problem.
right, parted hair all the way in the back.
So, given the wonderful genre of 80s horror movies and their kind of cheese, have you ever seen or heard of the Critters franchise?
Oh,
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I do love the Critters movies on a lot of levels. For those who are listening on our podcast, the listener in the back asked if we had heard of the Critters franchise. For those who don't know what Critters is, it's an alien race called the Krites who crash into a small town. They eat everything and have very sharp teeth. Were designed by the Chiodo brothers, who also did the designs for Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Is that a slasher?
But other than that, he's never heard of the film.
Yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is also a slasher
Okay,
film.
that's my number one, y'all. No.
I always loved those movies, and I always thought the fact that made them a little bit different was the fact that they had these bounty hunters that came to find them, who could shapeshift, and they had like the funniest names, Ugg and Lee. All right, Red Hat.
Could you comment on Rob Zombie movies? Are those generally respected in the genre or no?
It depends on what kind of genre you're talking about. For those listening, one of our audience members asked if Rob Zombie's films are respected. I would argue that his Halloween films, I think Part 2 is actually a really good movie that shouldn't be a Halloween movie, but Halloween, his remake suffers from being not enough of a remake and then too much of it. His other movies I wouldn't really call slasher movies, but kind of like more influenced by like kind of pop, like Texas Chainsaw, like, you know, horror. What do you think, Kirby?
I would say with Rob Zombie, I mean, I'm a defender in a lot of respects, even though it's not my all-time favorite. Because one, I mean, I respect Rob Zombie as an artist and as a musician, but I do think that he, you know, obviously people go, well, you know, his films are just a mashup of a bunch of different ideas from other movies or entities, and it's like, yes, but so are a lot of other films. It's especially as time goes on, it's more difficult to make things that are truly original. But you know, House of 1,000 Corpses, I think he, you know, had laid a decent base, but I think it really was much better with Devil's Rejects being like
Devil's
you know,
Rejects.
more of like a Natural Born Killers, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer kind of road trip from hell. And then I think a lot of his Halloween films, the biggest problem, I think it was Rue Morgue who first pointed out in their review when it was originally released, was that it can't decide whether it wants to be a supernatural slasher film or a serial killer movie. And that is hard. And it at the beginning is a serial killer movie, the second half is a slasher film. So, I mean, I think he has obviously a huge amount of fans, and I think he has garnered respect. I mean, I think a lot of people were not expecting Lords of Salem,
that's a good movie,
to be a very artistic 70s influence, a la Carta, Suspiria styled film. So,
brown cap with shades.
What about Jeepers Creepers and Pumpkinhead?
We'll take that one, Kirby.
Sure. Pumpkinhead, I mean, Stan Winston's directorial debut, I mean, it's pretty much,
it's more like supernatural
yeah, it gets
horror.
into the supernatural horror, and I mean, supernatural slashers was really set up with Freddy, and I mean, I think has become a genre. I would consider, in a way, I mean, obviously Pumpkinhead is the stalker, he's the slasher villain, but it's really Lance Henriksen controlling him. So he really is, it's his rage, that is controlling him. And then with Jeepers Creepers, is actually one of my favorite series from the 2000s, the early aughts of horror. I really think, I also love Victor Salva's original Clown House, despite its very controversial backstory and history. So,
Hot Rod, Rowdy Piper.
What do you think makes a good slasher?
What do I think makes a good slasher? A really cool villain with a cool design, at least one really compelling victim that will survive the film, and at least a really interesting and unique playground for that to happen. It also helps if there's at least one or two kills that are really elaborate and will make you go, ooh.
All right, referee from Freddy versus Jason.
Oh. Okay, so back to Chucky.
All right, back to Chucky.
Do you think they could have just thought of better ideas for actual horror, or do you think that it should have just ended at 3 instead of just going to comedy because it was horrible?
Well, I think it's interesting because the latest one, do you remember what the latest one is called, Kirby?
For which one? Curse of Chucky.
Curse of Chucky. If you watch that, it came out last year. It's trying to return to go back to horror, and it's interesting because Chucky's not even trying to be human anymore. He's just kind of trying to get revenge, and the whole movie is him trying to kill a crippled girl.
Right.
Not ADA approved.
Apparently there's another one coming out right here.
Yeah, I think so too. You girl in the back left. Yeah, you put your hand down. Yeah, you.
Oh, okay. What are your thoughts on Candyman?
I love Candyman. I heard he was awesome.
I think I like the first one. I think that's another one that had too many sequels. Yeah, I don't think it needed sequels. Farewell to the Flesh is really bad.
I'd say Candyman is one of the best Barker adaptions by far,
right.
and
long
the perfect
hair with
urban horror
glasses
film.
and the black shirt.
What is your guys' overall favorite scary theme for all of them, out of all your scary movies?
Killing kids. What is your favorite theme?
Glasses, short hair, gray shirt, pointing to herself.
Getting.
One of the things for me that really makes a slasher film is the creativity of the kills.
Yep, agreed.
Right there.
My Bloody Valentine, I love because of the shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
She is mounted. What would your favorite slasher movie kills be?
Ooh, the girl in the sleeping bag up against the tree, and that's just so great.
That was hilarious.
So fun.
I think in terms of memorable for me, I mean it's because it's a cool kill, but it's still sad. Is in part 3 when Freddy kills the heroin addict punk rock girl. Because they're having a really fair fight, and then his needles turn into heroin needles, and then her track marks open up and start having little lips. Yeah, so she overdoses to death in her dreams. That one's really messed up, but totally memorable.
Bloody Dude.
Gray beard with the bloody shirt.
When you're talking about elaborate kills, what about the collector movies? Collection, I mean, that was like a giant lawnmower.
Yeah, I actually thought the collection was pretty good. The sequel was a lot better than the original in that respect for creativity. I would say for modern films, probably my favorite creative kills, I mean, I just think they're absolutely perfect, is Hatchet. If anyone's seen any of those series, but especially the first one, especially since it was all done practically on camera.
Nice. White Wig.
So the slasher genre has mostly stalled. We got a few like Blood Orphan and Hatchet, but it's mostly dead. Which do you think would be better to revive it? Remakes and reboots or original themes?
I think original themes are probably what's going to do it, because remakes for the most part are always going to draw a comparison to the original, and when they're really bad, they kind of sink it. Like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I think kind of killed Freddy for at least a few more years because it was just really bad. I think so.
What?
Oh, Scream Queen.
Yeah, Scream Queen. What about Scream Queen, guys? Have you guys watched that yet?
It's
It's solid. It's really good.
Well, there's that. Now they're doing like the meta films, like the movie The Final Girls.
Oh yeah.
Was there another one that was kind of a similar name of the movie?
I think that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, there's a few of them that are out there.
The guy in the flannel.
Yeah, flannel all the way in the back.
Flannel, blues next.
Yeah.
You guys asked, you were talking about Cabin in the Woods earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the corporate agenda is the kind of thing that would happen again, or do you think that was a one-shot kind of movie?
Oh no, that's one that repeats over and over and over again. Yeah, it could totally have a sequel. Look at They Live, corporate agenda. There's a lot of movies out there like that. I was compiling a list of that recently. There's a lot of movies where there's you think the government's on your side and then they're not. That would be
Cabin in the Woods was like shelved for the longest time. Like it took a long time for it to release.
Yeah.
Even.
No, and then there's like some really original ones that came out in the past, like I'd say 10 years, that were like really cool and original. And yeah, Cabin in the Woods was one of them. Another one was All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. That was really good, but like only came out like about a year ago, like super stealth, but it was like done for like 10 years. And there's this really good Australian slasher movie called The Loved Ones. Yeah, where it's like this girl named Lola who like kidnaps this boy who she had a crush on to take to the prom, and then it's just like they kidnap him and he tries to escape. It's like Texas Chainsaw, Mary Lou, crazy.
Well, and you know what I'm noticing now too is a lot of stuff on like VOD is just popping up. People making movies like for low budget in their backyard, a bunch of their friends for maybe like $5,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Everybody saw Turbo Kid, right?
Yeah.
And Silver Hair.
All right, blue sleeve back there.
So, in your opinion, what is the difference between slasher films and other films that people claim to be slasher, like are too paranormal or too not actually in the slasher genre?
I think pretty much what we've been talking about in terms of the formula is that it has to have some sort of main killer who's basically stalking a specific group till it gets to one last one and becomes kind of a one-on-one battle.
Well, they've been birthed kind of from the same place, though, too. I don't think there would be a Paranormal Activity if it wasn't for the early slashers. Sure. Because there is some atmosphere that's similar to if you look back on like the original Halloween and things like that.
Well, and like Poltergeist didn't become a slasher until the second movie with the old guy that was chasing after her. And the first one, it was just because of the neighborhood, not because of, the bad guy. So that would be a good one where it was a clear, went from horror movie to slasher movie.
Blonde guy with glasses right there. And then horns. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. If you could create a kill scene, what would it be and why?
Dark fantasies, guys.
Oh yeah, let me imagine how I'm gonna kill somebody really quick. I don't know, probably something akin to Jason killing those two stoner girls in the sleeping bags because it was really funny. All right, horns.
What do you think of the Jack Frost movies?
Oh boy.
Kirby. I just remember the one death scene in the shower where like he becomes a snowman in the shower and I don't know. I think those it's a creative way of low budget filmmaking, but I can't ever really take the Snowman or Santa Claus seriously as a serial killer. Sorry, Goldberg.
Final question.
You.
Final question. Speaking of things like Jack Frost, is there like a horror, like a slasher movie, like concept, even if it was supposed to be, taken like pretty much for comedy, that you were like kind of rolled your eyes at?
Tons.
Ginger Dead Man.
Santa's sleigh. Yeah, that's Santa Claus, the serial killer, evil ginger dead man.
Pretty much anything Full Moon has put out in the last 10, 15 years has pretty much hit the point. I mean, it's fun. Like the second Ginger Dead Man film is actually really good. Same with the second Evil Bong. Hey, it really is, man. It's actually, for what it is, it's enjoyable. But I mean, you know what you're getting with Full Moon when you pick up their movies. It is what it is. But but I think originally, like I said, with people have always said like Child's Play, like just fucking kick him over. Like what are you doing? Like what are you waiting for? I mean, I think it's the ultimate film with like.
So many slasher movies wouldn't happen with good home security systems.
Well, there's that too.
All right, parted hair, last question.
Given that you have mentioned Jason X and space is kind of where most horror movies go to die,
Yeah.
what is your personal opinions on that glorious movie?
Let's let Adam.
Oh, Adam likes it.
Adam likes Jason X.
I do like Jason X.
Oh, yay!
I also like Hellraiser Bloodline, which is also Freddy in space. Pinhead in space.
Yeah, Pinhead in space.
The upgrade was the best part.
Yeah,
that's right.
I just like how at the end of the movie when they make the lament configuration, it explodes in space even though there's no oxygen. Awesome. Science. All right, so we've reached the end of our question period. Now, Quizmaster Kirby will give out these awesome prizes with your knowledge will get you stuff.
I'll do from, I'm probably doing way too hard. Victor's going to be like having to toss out softballs, but I'm really going to try here. So, first one, hands up, I'll let them judge.
All right, Ruby will judge whose hands are up first.
For the following three killers, name the fictional towns or cities they haunt. Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers. You have to have all three.
All right.
Go, you.
Crystal Lake, Springwood, and
what was the third one?
It starts with an H.
Yeah. There we go. All right, there we go. Give her the bag.
Gave her a clue.
You want to come up, claim your prize here?
Tear it up.
Good job. Thank you. All right. Next one is going to be, I'll even give the year. It's a 1981 summer camp slasher, and it starred a young Fisher Stevens, Holly Hunter, and Jason Alexander.
Oh, hot rod.
They'll burn it.
You got it.
Are you local? Do you live in this city?
I live in Nebraska.
Okay, sure. I'll give you, you want the medium or XL?
Give me an XL.
All right, I'm going to let Adam toss that one because you don't want to see me throw anything.
Woo! Nice
right.
catch.
Good catch.
I'm impressed by your knowledge. Give yourselves a hand. All right. All right. Two more.
Okay. I'll do one more. I'll let you guys come up with one because I think this one's way too hard. I don't think most people are going to know, but I'll give this one a try. At least one other alternate title for Bay of Blood.
You already got one. You already got it.
He already shot out the answer.
Okay, well, we'll have to come up with something on the fly. And I'll do another kind of a three-part one. In the film Child's Play, Chucky's name, his real name, is made up of three killers. Name those three killers. The real killers.
Dude, just that's his real name.
Yeah. What is his name?
Oh, she knows. She knows.
Go.
Charles Lee Wright.
But what was the 3 killers his name was inspired by?
Oh.
And there were 3 killers that he's Don
I don't
Mancina
even know this.
specifically.
Just kidding.
All right. Best of 2. You want to give her?
Yeah,
Are you
give it to
local?
her.
Are you local? Are you here in Arizona? All right, come get the tickets here.
We got 2 more hands.
Oh, does somebody actually know it?
Does somebody?
I was thinking of 2 of them because I heard you say best of 2 or something in a second.
Yeah, this guy.
He thinks he knows.
Hey, go for it. I want to hear all 3. Come on, man. You can do it. Somebody can do it.
Charles Manson, Henry Lee Lucas.
Are you looking at your phone, man?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Crap, I can't remember now.
Anybody got the 3rd?
You know what? I'll even softball it. It's the man who assassinated Martin Luther King Jr.
Ow, but he didn't give him a chance. See,
that's why you're judges, not me.
This is what I say. I say, give one to that. Give her a prize. Give him a prize, and he can stop by our booth, and we'll give him a print tomorrow.
Sounds like a plan. Everybody cool with that? All right.
Yay! Well, thanks again for coming to our panel. We invite you once again to come up and get a flyer if you haven't. You can find us tomorrow, booth 999 on the floor at Artist Alley. And we have another panel tomorrow, Saturday, 7:30. Find out more by coming to our booth 999. It's about finding geeky stuff to do in Arizona.
And we got
that's super cool. That's how it starts. It's in your book.
Aliens, June 18th, Tempe Pollock Cinemas.
Cult following on iTunes. Subscribe.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.
Woo!
All right. Young lady.
You like the shirt, man. Right here. Use the shirt.
All right, buddy.